Hello, my name is Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for September 27th to October 3rd of 2015. And on September 27th, we have the sun denoted right here by this black circle with a dot in it. It's in Libra. It's also in the 46 hexagram, and on the outside of the wheel, we have the chop mark for the 46, numbered from bottom to top. The 46 goes yin, yang, yang, yin, yin, yin. And then the 46 hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called the gate. Right here is the 46th gate of the determination of the cell, pushing upwards. Good fortune may be perceived as a result of serendipity, but derives from effort and dedication. Located in the G center in an abstract collective energy path in the sensing circuit called the channel of discovery, a design of succeeding where others fail and failing where others succeed, that connects to the 29th gate of saying yes, the abysmal, the deep within the deep. Persistence despite difficulties has inevitable rewards. And I have found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person, that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we've got the following activated gates on September 27th. We've got the sun and the north node in the 46. We have the earth and the south node in the 25. Mercury is retrograde and in the 48th gate. And then we've got Venus in the 4th gate with Mars in the 59th gate. Jupiter is in the 40th gate with Saturn in the 34th gate. Uranus is retrograde in the 51st gate. Neptune is retrograde in the 37th gate, and Pluto is newly direct in the 38th gate. So obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And the neutrino forecast is really just a weather report. No matter what the weather, your individual strategy and authority is the correct choice to have on authentic experience regardless of the program. As Ra Uru Hu said, whatever the weather is going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather is for your pleasure. And as we begin the week, we've got two channel definitions due to the transit field. With the south node in the 25 and Uranus in the 51, we've got the channel of initiation, the design of needing to be first until November 29th, where we might experience some sort of leap into the unknown. This is an individual channel that empowers through the courage to take a chance on something unknown and deal with the consequences afterwards. Obviously, following your strategy and authority will help you determine if this initiation is correct for you, or if faced with multiple possibilities to experience a quantum shift, which, if any, are correct for you. In the mundane world, this is likely to see people become more competitive, pushing the boundaries, getting outside their comfort zone, which will be shocking to themselves and others as they feel the wonder of their own unique spirit. And I've seen this being played out locally as well as nationally and globally in events that are being broadcast on the media, and some that certainly aren't. So if you experience people acting unpredictable during this time period, just recognize that it's a conditioning force that will eventually move on. But this could seem that folks are less in balance while experiencing this foreign energetic. And then with the defined ego center, folks without a defined heart center, which are 70% of us, may feel that they have something to prove or make promises or commitments that are not correct for them. And then the defined G center could influence folks without to obsess about where they're headed or where they're going to find love. This is also individual circuitry, so it brings with it melancholy or blue feelings that are best used in some type of creative activity. And then with Jupiter in the 40 and Neptune in the 37, we've got the channel of community until October 3rd. This definition brings the energy where people will wonder where they belong in the scheme of things and try to live that out. It would be a time of thinking about marriage and family as the foundation of community. Fairness becomes more important under the influence of the channel of community. Balance is also important in all aspects of life. People will explore how they fit into their community and on a mystical level, where they fit into the universe and what their true purpose is. We talked about the defined ego center could influence people to make promises or commitments that aren't correct for them, or feel like they have something to prove. The defined solar plexus could influence those without emotional definition through its unfamiliar wave of emotions, which perhaps could lead to acting confrontational. We're going to be looking at the sun's Ravi-Ching line values daily, because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come from the sun. And as Ross said in Living with the Program, the lines of the day, when talking about these daily shifts in line values, he said we can always take advantage of the themes of the day. If your strategy and authority doesn't lead you in that direction, you can always notice how the program is affecting others in your environment. So September 27th begins with the sun up in the 6th line, the role model line of the 46 hexagram, and the sun in the 46-6 is integrity. Exalted the wisdom to secure one's identity through careful consideration of the restrictive potential of commitment, the determination to say no to restrictive commitments. Detrimented, deceiving oneself and others by overextending one's resources and eventually being in a position of having to break promises. The drive for success that will not say no and will end up breaking promises. In 6 lines, we're on the roof of the hexagram. I like to think about being on the roof of a building, that we don't tend to look at the building as much as what's down the road, what's in the neighborhood, what's on the horizon. Looking beyond is that 6-line theme. But then later on the 27th, the sun moves out of the 46, so it's leaving the north node behind, and it moves into the 18 in the splenic center. And as it moves, the Earth also moves. It's leaving the 25, and it moves up into the 17 up here in the Arsenal Center. And so we've got the Earth in the 17th gate of opinions, following the ancient law that those who wish to rule must know how to serve. And this shift happens at 3:18 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And we've got the sun in the 18th gate of conservatism, the 18th gate of correction, work on what's been spoiled, the vigilance and determination to uphold and defend basic human rights. And, of course, it's in the first line as we enter a new trigram. And the first line of the 18 is conservatism, the adherence to traditional patterns despite and or in spite of changing circumstances. Exalted, gradual modification to avoid eventual upheaval. The potential to correct through gradual modification. Detrimented, the patriarch, whose rigidity guarantees deterioration. The potential to refuse to correct. And we're in a new trigram, a new hexagram. So the sun in the first, second, third lines, this is the lower trigram. Those are days when people look more inward, they're more absorbed in their own process. And the theme of a first line day is a fear or anxiety that needs to be investigated. So this is a day to study, not to act. It's a day to look into things, not to jump. It's a good day to deal with things you don't understand, can't make sense of, or don't know. Then on the 28th, the sun then moves into the second line. So moving into the hermit line from the investigator line, again, of the 18th hexagram at 2:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 18-2 is described as terminal disease. The recognition that what has been spoiled is irreversible, exalted acceptance and the strength derived from faith in spiritual regeneration, the acceptance that there is no potential for correction. Detriment of the futile raging against the wind, the refusal to accept that there is no potential for correction. Second line days, everybody's waiting for something. They're waiting to be called. particularly called for their natural talents. Again, lower trigram, people are stuck in their own trip. So this is really not a great day to have a party or a big social event because no one's really going to want to come under the influence of the hermit. Also on the 28th, retrograde Mercury moves out of the 48 and backs into the 18 where it's joining the sun. And Mercury is the messenger of the gods. So this is about communication, expansion of human consciousness through communication, not just as words, but also as music, according to Ra. And what do you need to communicate in life? Well, we communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. What might be communicated with Mercury in the 18? Well, that authority needs to be questioned. This is the gate of correction, work on what's been spoiled, the vigilance and determination to uphold and defend basic human rights. Retrograding back, so by retrograde it means that the planet appears to be moving backwards from our perspective here on the Earth. So Mercury moves into the 6th line of the 18, which is Buddhahood, the perfected form, exalted, the Buddha state of the eternal child, the energy to find new horizons and avoid stasis. This is also, the potential of the perfected form through correction, detriment of the mundane application of the above. The ability to tap public opinion and share methodology, the potential to share the values of the correction with others. And on the 29th, the sun then moves up into the 3rd line, so into the martyr line of the 18, and this shift happens at 1:11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. This is the sun in the line of the zealot, the energetic obsession to clean house, exalted the disillusion of old forms at an acceptable price, the obsession with correction and its critical potential, detriment, rigid judgment that creates as many problems as it solves, an obsession with correction that does not bring satisfaction. So the 3rd line, the martyr line, we're talking about trial and error, bonds made and broken, a system of discovery by figuring out what doesn't work. Things bump into us under that 3rd line energy, so we've got to be careful on the roads, be careful of swinging doors, people swinging elbows. We might have bonds made and broken. We may have go through a trial and error process. It's a good material day. It's a good day to do business and work on the material plane, but you have to be careful because things can go wrong. But ultimately, those things may lead to discovery. And then on the 30th, the sun then moves up into the 4th line. So we're up here in the opportunist line of the 18th hexagram, and this happens at 12:06 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So in Eastern Daylight Time, this is just 6 minutes after midnight on the 30th. The sun in the 18:4 is being detrimented due to Mercury also being in the 18 as well. And this is the incompetent. Difficulties as a result of inadequacies cannot be resolved because of inadequacies. Detriment, indecision, and anxiety, and no escape from misfortune. The demand of correction and its potential to generate anxiety. 4th line days, we're shifting from the lower trigram to the upper trigram, from a personal process to transpersonal process. So this changes from an inward perspective to more looking outward with the themes of friendship, companionship, networking. 4th line days are great for social interaction. But later on the 30th, the sun then moves up into the 5th line, into the heretic line, again, 18th hexagram, at 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So just 1 hour before midnight Eastern Daylight Time on the 30th. And the sun in the heretic line of the 18 is described as therapy. The strength to recognize a problem and accept that it is beyond one's power to solve alone. Exalted the wisdom to both seek and provide guidance. The potential for correction and judgment through relationships. Detriment, the mental patient, chronic instability and potential madness, where the relationship cannot assist the correction, the potential of mental instability. The thing to know about the fifth line energy is this about projection. The projection goes positive then negative. Positive, they could do it, they're the perfect person for it. And then if the person doesn't do it, can't do it, doesn't want to do it, whatever, if they're not meeting that expectation, then the projection turns negative. The person gets punished. The heretic is tied to the stake. So this is a day of suspicion, but it's also of universalization where something can leak out like a virus. That where we might have a YouTube video that suddenly gets millions of viewings, or a Facebook post that goes viral, things like that. Paranoia is also associated with the fifth line day, which impacts the nature of relationships. But as I've said before, if they're projecting on you and you're not meeting their expectation, then it's not paranoia. Seduction is also a theme of the fifth line day. And then on October 1st, the sun then moves up into the sixth line, up into the role model line of the 18th hexagram at 9:54 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 18:6 is Buddhahood, the perfected form, exalted, the Buddha state of the eternal child, and the energy to find new horizons and avoid stasis. The potential of the perfected form through correction. Detriment, the mundane application of the above, and the ability to tap public opinion and share methodology. The potential to share values of correction with others. And sixth line days, again, this is, again, on the roof of the hexagram, tends to be looking beyond, looking down the road in the neighborhood, things like that. And Ra talked about, on sixth line days, not to get stuck with your head in the clouds, because you'll end up with something banging into your shins or your kneecaps. It's a day where there's a lack of focus on what's going on around us, because folks are looking beyond their immediate environment. And like third line days, there's certain dangers of maybe not seeing a car coming, not seeing a bill coming, things of that nature. Also on the 1st, Venus moves out of the 4 and into the 29, which brings this channel definition. And so Venus is, Ra talked about as being very powerful, deeply misunderstood. It brings morality or values, natural law in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us, and what disturbs you at a moral level. Your design and personality. Venuses tell us about the moral dilemma that you're going to work with in life, and then if you don't act with moral clarity, Venus can be unkind in its retribution. Venus is in the 29th gate of saying yes, the abysmal, the deep within the deep. Persistence despite difficulties has inevitable rewards. Venus is in the first line of the 29, which is the draftee, the ability to adapt to struggle when necessary, but not as a permanent state. Exalted, the innate nature to apply energy in times of war and peace. The power to persevere when necessary, but not generally. Detrimented, a deep impressionability whose mark from times of struggle may make return to normal conditions extremely difficult. Hesitation in making commitments based on past experiences. And with Venus in the 29, and we've got the North Node in the 46, we've got the channel of discovery, which is the design of succeeding where others fail and failing with where others succeed, which will be with us until October 8th, bringing the energy that if we make the commitment to something, we have to abandon ourselves to it during this time period. It's through our experiences that we realize that there are no such thing as failure or success, only continual discovery. This is about being in the now and the experience of being alive. Again, defined G center could influence people without to obsess about where they're headed, where they might find love. The defined sacral center affects non-generator types in feeling busy and having the endurance to work. Obviously, don't get used to it. They also may think that they know when enough is enough, which could lead to the premature or abrupt end to something that needs more time. On the 2nd, the sun then moves out of the 18th hexagram, leaving Mercury, and it moves into the 48. And we also have the Earth moving, and it moves out of the 17, and it moves into the 21. All right. So we've got the Earth in the 21st hexagram, and the gate of the huntress biting through the justified and necessary use of power in overcoming deliberate and persistent interference. This shift happens at 8:46 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, with the sun in the 48th gate of the well. Depth, the necessary and qualitative foundation that is a prerequisite to establish the common good. The sun in the first line of the 48 is insignificance, exalted, the instinctive recognition of what is practical and deserves attention, a taste for recognizing what is practical and deserves attention. Detrimented, an ego tendency to apply energy to trivial considerations, a taste for trivia. And again, we're in a new hexagram, so we're in the lower trigram, and first line, as we've talked about before, the investigator line, with where there's an anxiety or some type of fear that needs to be investigated, needs to be researched, looked into, and things of that nature. And then on the 3rd, the sun then moves out of the investigative line into the hermit line of the 48, and this shift happens at 7:38 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 48.2 is described as degeneracy, exalted, the awareness that to successfully establish a new form, one cannot neglect the most positive attributes just to accommodate inferior elements. A confidence in awareness to resist inferior influences. Detrimented, the misguided urge for harmony that degenerates when associated with inferior values. It degenerates when associated with inferior values into decadence. A lack of confidence in awareness that invites interference and decadence. And as before, second line, we're in the line of the hermit. So this is about waiting for the call, waiting to be called for natural talents. Again, the hermit energy is very much keeping to itself, staying home, things of that nature, but also to have natural abilities. Also on the 3rd, retrograde Mercury moves out of the 18, and it joins the North Node in the 46. And we've got Jupiter moves out of the 40, and it moves up into the 64, up in the head center. All right, so we'll start with Mercury. We've described Mercury earlier about being communication. So what might be communicated with Mercury in the 46? I expect to hear people talking about experiences of being in the right place at the right time or not. Again, this is the gate of determination of the self, pushing upward, good fortune that may be received as a result of serendipity, but derives from effort and dedication. Of course, again, Mercury's retrograde, so it's appearing to be moving backward from our perspective here on the Earth. So it enters into the sixth line of the 46, which Mercury is in the sixth line, is integrity. Exalted the wisdom to secure one's energy through careful consideration of the restrictive potential of commitment. The determination to say no to restrictive commitments. Detriment in deceiving oneself and others by overextending one's resources and eventually being in a position of having to break promises, a drive for success that will say no and end up breaking promises. And then also on the third, Jupiter moving from the 40 to the 64. And in human design, Jupiter is generalized law, the electromagnetic central operating theater for the way in which the solar system operates. Ra talked about that living by the law can bring great good fortune. The activations in our human design chart tell us about the law we must live by to benefit from the generosity only comes from deep obedience to honoring your own law, your own strategy and authority. And Jupiter in the 64th gate of confusion before completion. Transition like birth requires a determined strength for the passage through. And Jupiter is in the first line of the 64, which is conditions, exalted. In penetrating to the center, the understanding that instills the necessary harmony to survive disorder amongst confusion, the difficulty in finding the point. Detrimented, the powerful temptation when having a transition in sight to hasty action, an urge to act when you think you have made sense of confusion. So no matter what energies are conditioning you during the week, just remember this experience is about being a passenger riding in a vehicle that's being driven by the magnetic monopole. So enjoy the scenery. Let the vehicle take you where you need to go through using your strategy and authority. Every day we have is a blessing, no matter what the dramas that beckon to distract us. We're all here giving the performance of a lifetime on this world stage. Just take some time to observe your play or observe your movie as well as acting your part by remembering that you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be on October 4th, 2015, should be available on the 3rd, when we'll continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, or YouTube, and I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you've got any questions or you wish to schedule a reading. And if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. And we're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available, and emailing me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com. I'll give you instructions on how to make a donation or get a reading. The readings I provide are epic. They usually run a couple of hours, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, whatever it takes to really get the information across. Using human design to describe who the person is, and then at the higher levels of compensation, using astrology transits to describe what are the scenes in the movie or play that that person is currently experiencing and what's coming up in the near future. As always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. All my best to you. Look forward to connecting again next week or in a reading, or through email. Anyway, all my best.